Hey everyone, and welcome to Lab 4. This will be our last lab using QGIS, and in this lab we will be using field data to make a map. So it's going to be similar setup as we've done our past labs. Make sure you have your geography folder, and within there you want to go ahead and set up a Lab 4 folder too. And as usual, we will go ahead and make a data folder within our Lab 4 folder. Simply name that data. Once you have that set, we'll navigate to As You Learn, click on the zip file to download it. Once it's downloaded, go ahead and open it in your file manager. You can either click that link or navigate to your downloads and it should be right there. We then want to extract this. You can just right click, extract all, and go ahead and extract. You don't need to browse and drop it into your Lab 4 folder. This week it's going to be easiest if you just extract it right back into your downloads. And again, that'll look like that, unzipped. Navigate to this folder, select this Excel file, right click, copy, and we are simply just going to paste that into our Lab 4 data folder. So navigate back to that location and paste the Excel sheet like so, and now you are set to begin. With your data and Lab 4 folder set, we're going to go ahead and create a new project as we usually do. And if your project screen didn't appear like that and didn't allow you to just click and it opens you up to an existing project, you can come up to project and click new. It'll get you back to the screen as well. So again, right away, we're going to save as. Make sure it is your new Lab 4 folder. And so we're not saving within the data folder, just in the Lab 4 folder. And again, your username _ Lab 4 will be easiest. And go ahead and save. And remember to save manually frequently throughout. So as part 1 details, when you're working with QGIS and other mapping service or softwares, your data is not always in a shapefile. Oftentimes it's in an Excel document or a spreadsheet with just latitude and longitudinal values listed. So in this lab, we're going to be adding some tools in QGIS to be able to read these Excel files a little bit more effectively. And that's going to come up a little later, but for now, go ahead and make sure we have the Quick Map Services plugin still installed from our earlier labs. So you can come down to installed and verify that Quick Map Services is there. You can also verify by searching, and when you click on it, it'll say uninstall. That means it is installed, and that will verify that you have that up and running. Make sure when you're searching for Quick Map Services that it is all one word and you have the correct capitalizations. You will notice if you're searching with a different spelling or form, it might not look like it's there, but just make sure it is spelled exactly in the Lab 2 document, and that will appear and you will be good to go. So go ahead and close out that plugins window, and we are going to change the project's coordinate reference system before we add the data. So similar from earlier labs, come over to this project tab and navigate to properties, and this will appear. Make sure you're in the CRS tab, and we are going to search for WGS 84, and this time we are using a different EPSG. We want 4326. Previously we used 3857, so make sure that you select the correct one and go ahead and press OK. So now we are going to use that plugin we just verified was installed, Quick Map Services. So to do that, we're going to come up to Web, hover over Quick Map Services, and go to OSM, and then from there click on OSM Standard. And so this added an OpenStreetMap and the standard version. Next, we want to create a point dataset from our list of coordinates in the feature CSV. So to do this, we're going to navigate to, oops, sorry, I'm panning my map. We're going to navigate to Layer, Add Layer, Add Delimited Text Layer, and then this will appear. Next to file name here, we're going to click on these three little dots, also called Browse, and we're going to navigate to the folder we saved our data and that features CSV in. So once you get there, go ahead and get to this and click Open. From here, you want to drop down this geometry definition. It might be closed when you first open this screen up, and we want to make sure that next to X field, Y, or next to X field, we have the X selected and Y selected for the Y field. And then an important step here is to come down to this geometry CRS and make sure we select that projection we just changed the entire project to. It should say default CRS, and that is the 4326 WGS84. Once all that looks like this, go ahead and click Add, and then you can close. In the Layers panel, you want to select Features, right-click, and then click on Zoom to Layer, and that should jump you right into App States Campus, and you should see these points listed on the map. If your points don't show up, go ahead and right-click and remove this layer and go through the process of adding the CSV again, and hopefully that will work for you. So whenever we create a layer from a list of coordinates, such as we just did with the features, it's only a temporary layer. To create a permanent layer, we have to export the shapefile. So to do that, come on over to the layer panel, right-click on features, and go down to export and save feature as. And then this screen will pop up. Next to file name, click on browse and navigate to your lab 4 data folder, and we're going to name this statues, and you can go ahead and press save. And then you also want to make sure that this same projection we've been working in, the EPSG 4326 W864, is selected, and then go ahead and click OK. You should get this message that the layer was successfully exported. In the layers feature, go ahead and unselect features, and then this is a good place to save. So for part 2, the first thing we want to do is change the transparency of the OSM standard base map, see the points better. So in layers, we want to come over to OSM standard and right click to open properties. And from here, it should take you right to transparency, but if not, just go ahead and select the tab. And we want to change the global opacity to 50%. So you can either slide or type or use the arrows to get right to 50. I'll just go ahead and type it exactly. So I just pressed enter there, and that's the same as pressing OK. But if you want to preview the changes, you can press apply and then OK. We're also going to change the symbology of the statues layer. So to do that, it's the same process. We're going to select it, right click, and get to properties. And then make sure you select simple marker. And then you can scroll down to see the different appearance types. Personally, I like using like crosses or triangles. I think those are really distinct and easy to see. And you can play around with it and press apply to preview. And if anything ever gets like messed up, you're not liking how it looks, you can just press cancel before you press OK, and that will get you back to just the original points we had. You can also play around with the color. Again, just make sure it's something that's easy for you to see and easy to work with. So I will probably play around with that a little bit more and then pick up from there. And once you're set, just go ahead and press OK. Once you have the symbology for the statue set, we're going to add some labels. So same thing, just select it, right click, properties, and navigate to this labels tab. And we want to select single labels. And then from here, you'll notice the lab document says besides label with, yours might say value, but the important thing is that you just have name selected. and you can go ahead and press apply to see what that looks like. You'll notice some of the names are kind of over the top of the points and a little bit over top of each other. So we are going to play around with making those easier to read without simply just zooming in. So you can do that with the text. You can mess around with the size, style, the font, or you can get in any of these that you feel comfortable with. And remember, you can always preview your changes with apply and cancel them before you finalize. One thing I find that makes it really easy to see the names is to go down to buffer and click on draw buffer text, and the standard default, if you apply, you'll notice puts a kind of white background highlight around it. It makes it easier to read, so I'm still probably going to play around with the font size and get a little bit better, but that's always a good start. And once you are confident with that, just go ahead and press OK. Right here is also a good point to save, so once you're set with how you want your names to look, come up to project and click save. Now we're going to add a layout. So we want to come up to project and new print layout. And you can give it a title. I'm just going to call mine Gastelle NT new layout 4. So I know it's lab 4. And then this separate window will appear. And then from the add item, we want to come down to add map, and you'll notice the crosshairs will appear so you can draw your map onto the canvas. I'm going to pretty much get mine from corner to corner, and then the map should render, and you can adjust this if you didn't get yours quite right. You can resize just by doing that, and then you can also come down to this move item content. If your frame isn't necessarily perfectly centered, you can kind of play it around, you can move it around to get all the points in there. Next, we're going to add some map elements, and as you move on in GIS and as you just kind of study more maps, you'll notice that most maps have 5 elements: a title, legend, scale bar, north arrow, and citation. So to start, we are going to add a legend. So to do that, we're going to come up to add item and then click add legend, and the crosshairs will appear again. So draw this over a space that it's not going to cover any points or anything we need to see. And you can also resize this and play with it. It can be a little tricky. It's easiest to just delete it and redraw. You can do that as well. And you can also edit the properties by right clicking and going to item properties, and you can kind of play with the size in layout from there. And so that was just to get you comfortable with how to use the legend, but for this map, our title will cover the same information, so we can go ahead and delete that for now. You won't technically need one. But moving on, we do need a scale bar. So you can come down to add scale bar and draw that and kind of start to plan where else you're going to put things like your title and north arrow, as to not overlap them with each other and to make each feature readable and clear. And again, you can right click item properties and mess around with that to make it a little more visible. Another thing to note for the scale bar is it should be representative of the overall map size. So because App State's campus is walkable and not on a large scale for what we're working with, go ahead and make sure that it's in something easy to read, such as meters or feet. You want to avoid kilometers and miles right now, just because that would get into kind of decimals and just really not a unit that's going to be really intuitive. So make sure it's in either feet or meters, and that will best serve the map. So after that, we're going to add a north arrow, and all the items we're going to be adding are up in this add item drop down menu. So we are going to add a north arrow, and the best rule of thumb for north arrows is just keep it simple. All they're really doing is telling you, which way is due north. So from there, you can right click and get to item properties, and that will take you here. And if you want a different selection of arrows, you can come down to this arrows under the app symbols. And I'm going to choose this one just because it's a little more obvious. And if it's white like that and kind of difficult to read, the easiest thing to do is just change the fill color to black and something that looks good and is clear and apparent. Now we're going to add a title. So again, we're going to come up to add item. And you'll notice that there's no specific add title. So this is just going to be a label. And we are going to draw it across the top to where it's a good size. And then the item properties should open for you automatically, but if not, just as usual, right click select. And then we can go ahead and name this, probably won't let me highlight, but we can go ahead and name this art features at Appalachian State University. And once that is set, you want to come down to font. It can be a little tricky to try to find the size of the font, but that is actually in this font section, and we can increase that till it's readable. I'll probably leave it at about 21. We can also indent a little bit so that it's a little more centered using this horizontal margin. And the last thing is the background. So you want to go ahead and check that and add a white background to make it even easier to read and just make it a little more clear. And again, you're encouraged to play around with some of the features, especially in the item properties. If you can't select anything, make sure you're doing the select move item and not the pan or anything else. Once you select that, you can play around. I added a frame and made the border a little thicker so that the box stands out. But after that, we're going to add our citation. So that'll be the same thing as the add label. You can come down here and draw a box where it will fit well, just like that. The last feature we're going to add is the citation. So again, it's going to be a label. So add item label, and we're going to draw this at the bottom. I actually did this earlier, so I'm going to go back, select, and delete the old one, and work in this new one. So for the contents of the citation, you want to use your name because you are the app creator, and then you also want to list the date the map was created, and then you can press enter and get to the next line, and we want to credit the actual data collector and the base maps. You can write source colon, and this map creator was Eddie Hyle, Hyle, and then comma, and you can just say open street map. And now proper credit has been given. So we can come into here and resize this so it looks a little bit better. And you're welcome to add a border or background to this as we did with the title. But for citations, it's a little more casual. It's not meant to really stick out. It's kind of meant to blend into the map. So you can refer to the lab example, how they did not have a background. But again, it's up to you, as most of these are. When your layout is complete, we want to go ahead and just come up to layout and save project. It'll save as that name we originally had. After that's saved, we want to go ahead and export the map as a PDF. So this is what we're actually going to turn in. So to do that, come up to layout, export as PDF. If you get this message, you can go ahead and press OK. It's not really relevant for our purposes. Make sure it's in your Lab 4 folder and make it your username, map1. Again, this is what you'll submit to As You Learn, so make sure your username and title are clear, and you want to save it as PDF and click Save. And then when this window comes up, click Save again. And your map will be successfully exported. Also, if you want to use this in different capacities, you can save it as a different format. So you can come down to layout and export as an image, and then you can change it to whatever you can anticipate a need for. So that is it for this demonstration. Part 3 is a do-it-yourself. So you can refer to the features CSV. You can open that in a regular Excel file and see what that looks like, and you are going to create one similar with different coordinates that you are interested in, anything you want to map. It could be like restaurants or something like that around Boone. And you want to do exactly what that sheet looks like and go through this process again. and produce a map like this, but just with different features. And if you need help with that, feel free to reach out to myself or Professor Anderson. Professor Anderson will probably have some good tips on where to actually find coordinates, but as the document explains, this is really easy to just Google, and then it's just a matter of putting it in the Excel sheet that you will work with. So again, it's going to be pretty much just running through this lab one more time, but with a different feature set, and it should be a lot faster than this first one here. You are not going to be turning in, or you're not going to be answering any questions for this lab, just turning in the 2 PDFs that you create. And also go ahead and upload your zipped file to Udesk. If you need a refresher on that, that video how to is at the end of lab 2 and also at the end of lab 1. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you need any help, and good luck and have fun.